Okay, so welcome everybody to today's learning objectives. And I'm Catherine Sanders Reach. I'm the director of the Center for Practice Management here at the North Carolina Bar Association. And we're going to go over what I learned at TECHSHOW this year. And TECHSHOW, I have a significant bias. I am a past chair of ABA TECHSHOW in 2020. So it's a program that I've been going to for many years. It's a multi-day CLE and Expo, and it's held bizarrely in Chicago, oftentimes in the dead of winter, like this year. So I go freeze so you don't have to. Although, did anyone go to TECHSHOW? I am going to attempt to launch a poll and see if anybody went this year. Okay, so the no's have it. Nobody went, which is fine. And that is why we're doing this. So I thought I would tell you kind of some of the things I learned, go through some of the programs that I went through very, very quickly, and just give you a sense of, yes, Chicago in February, yuck. Agreed. So a couple of things that I pulled out some quotes. I went back and I've put together a little packet for y'all that will include some of the PowerPoints and papers that I personally did, and then some of the articles that provide some big think about what went on at TECHSHOW. I thought this quote was really interesting, although there was a ton of discussion about generative artificial intelligence. You know, there were other things that we discussed. There were the digital courtroom, multi-jurisdictional practice. Uh, then, there was one really interesting program on dealing with change management using gamification. So there's a lot of other programs going on at ABA TECHSHOW besides just generative AI, but of course that was all the buzz. So at any rate, this is a quote from an interview that Jack Newton did. Jack is the Clio CEO and founder, and he said you need to treat ChatGPT as a junior associate that will lie pathologically. This isn't the first time I've heard this kind of warning in terms of using artificial intelligence. You can't use it as a substitute for yourself or someone else at this point. You just can't trust it. It is very helpful in certain ways. I'm going to suggest some ways that you may be able to take advantage of it. Speaking of AI, I just pulled up the 60 and 60 tips, which I'm going to share some of those tips with you. But what I thought was interesting is that I immediately noticed that this was, and let me share this screen. Okay, I think you can see it. In Adobe Acrobat now, if you open up a PDF in the browser, if you're paying for this product, there is an AI assistant. So I pulled up this document and I said, what are some ways lawyers can choose technology wisely? And it gave me a little condensation of this article. So AI is showing up everywhere. And it's in products that you already have, oftentimes in beta. So, this is the one where I ask it to summarize all of the tips from Patrick Wright. And it did a pretty amazing job of getting it right. But Patrick gave 12 tips, and there's only 9 here. So again, not perfect. The other topic of conversation was if we're using artificial intelligence to speed through a lot of work that would have been done ostensibly by a paralegal, a legal assistant, a first year associate, and even the work that you're doing, how are we going to be billing by the hour if clients are looking at this and saying, why weren't you using artificial intelligence to enhance your productivity and speed up your work? And this is going to be a question that we're going to have to figure out over time. I did just look, and on the State Bar's website, just to be aware, we have proposed formal opinion on number one, use of artificial intelligence in a law practice that was posted January 18th. And this goes through the opinion that they have written. It is in draft right now, so it's proposed. You can go in, read it, think through it, and think about what kind of comments you have and submit your comments. They have made changes to proposed opinions based on public or comment from attorneys. So please do go and add your comments and thoughts to that proposed opinion. So another thing is, despite all the discussions about innovation and technology, my friend Nkoyo Effiong, who was in attendance at TECHSHOW, pointed out that innovation is not tech adoption. They're not equal. As a profession, legal needs to adopt technology, but that's really just the beginning. We need to shape technology, leverage it, think about the ways we do justice and practice law. And so just because you adopt a technology does not mean that you're necessarily innovating. If you want to innovate, and not to plug my own book, but I didn't actually write it, I edited it, and I participated in editing a book on design thinking where we ask a bunch of attorneys who are using design thinking, who definitely applied technology, but to solve problems for their clients, and delivered some interesting results by kind of getting out of their own headspace and doing things like it's always been done, and thinking about how to leverage the technology to really create some innovative products and services for clients. Another thing that this is a quote from uh, Above the Law. And one of the interesting things that's happened recently is that we've seen Legal Tech Week the week before ABA Tech Show. So it's a contrast in two different legal tech events, one of which is held in New York. It tends to pull in the mid-size and larger firms. ABA Tech Show tends to pull in the solos, the small firms, and generally legal geeks. So Above the Law said if the central theme of Legal Week was how unready most corporate providers were to show off their AI, at Tech Show, we saw a lot of AI technology vendors showing us what they had, even if it isn't entirely ready for prime time. Which was I really appreciated that. You know, they're going out on a limb, they're showing us what they've got. Is it perfect? Not really. And well, we had this startup pitch competition, and there were a lot of alternative or AI products in there. They have about 15 different vendors, all of who are ostensibly kind of new to the marketplace, pitching, and then the audience generally, which is a couple of hundred people, vote on which one they think has the most appealing product. And so this year, the number one winner of the startup pitch competition was AltFee, which is a product that helps law firms replace the billable hour with fixed fee pricing. And it helps you figure out what a good fixed fee is based on metrics that you collect, how long it takes, and normalizing. So that one was number one in the hearts and minds of the attendees. And then the next was Scribe AI, an alternative to traditional court reporting. And then finally, Paxton AI, and AI legal assistant. So those are the ones that were the top three at the startup pitch competition. I polled my colleagues at the other bar associations who attended ABA Tech Show to get a sense of what they thought, what their takeaways were. And Brent Hoft, who's at the State Bar of Wisconsin, said he expected that AI was going to be the center of everything, and that certainly held up. But he said he left the conference thinking about all of the law practice management systems that have now or begun to launch AI integrations, and how in order for the full experience to work on the firm's communications and information, um, you've got to start actually using those products so that the AI becomes useful, built in. He also, again, said that he was interested in if this is truly going to be the death of the billable hour. And an interesting query, what attorneys might do with the additional time created by using AI to increase efficiency. So, what are you going to do with all this free time that you have? And I know you're laughing at this point. And then my friend Roberta Tepper at the State Bar of Arizona pulled this quote out. This is actually from Ben Shore, who's works for Microsoft, and um, he was showing Copilot, but he wanted to note that Copilot is called Copilot for a reason and not autopilot. There's still a lot of work that you have to do. And she said this was a quote worthy of being embroidered on a pillow, although she can have that in her house. I prefer cats. Anyhow, the thing that she's looking at, and there's been a number of state bars that have promulgated AI proposed opinions. One thing that I will have y'all pay attention to in our proposed opinion, and the thing that kind of sticks out to me, is whether or not you need to disclose that you use Gen AI in your practice to clients. And what she suggested is using Gen AI equivalent to having an associate or a law clerk help you with your work. And did you tell your clients that? So I thought that was an interesting thought. So the next thing I want to do is kind of run you through some of the programs that I did, just to give you a sense of breadth, depth, and difference in the different programs that we did. So I did one again with Ben Shore, who works for Microsoft, and we did this on knowledge management with artificial intelligence. And so the concept here is that, you've got the data, and then you turn that into information, and then hopefully that generates knowledge. Then you are the only one who can apply wisdom at this point. So you've got some raw material, and then you organize it, and then you add meaning and context to it, and that becomes the source of your wisdom. So that's the concept of knowledge management. The reason that we need it is because, for years, this was poised to take off, but it was really hard to capture the knowledge. And so thinking about in your firms, and it doesn't matter, it does not have to be a big firm, you know, what is it? Where's the information? What are the people, the policies, the precedents, the procedures? Where do you store it? Why do you want knowledge management? Onboarding, making better decisions, being able to turn things around faster. And then how are you going to do this? And one of the answer to that question has become leveraging artificial intelligence in some of the products that we have today and some of the newer products coming out, where they are being focused on a legal vertical, understanding that lawyers are very nervous about using products like ChatGPT or Claude 2 because we don't want to necessarily upload client confidential documents and have it somehow leak into the LLM or have someone read it, primarily confidentiality issues. And what I saw at TECHSHOW is that is definitely something that is being understood by these legal vendors, and they are focusing on creating these closed system environments so that you have assurances that your information is not being sent off to a place that has exposure. Your exposure is about the same, I think, with a lot of these products as it is if you're using Microsoft 365 with Azure, or a product that has a basis with Amazon Web Services, things like that. So we have some equivalents already. And so we've gone from seeing these big models where anybody can go on, but the terms of service are not advantageous to law firms, to seeing a whole bunch of legal technology vendors understanding the needs of law firms. In fact, I just saw that I think it's Chicago, Kent, or Northwestern has developed their own LLM now. And I literally saw that headline this morning, so I'll tell you more about that as I learn about it. But, you might say, well, why do we need knowledge management? This was a survey done by ICO a number of years ago, and it talks about how much time do knowledge workers spend wasting time. So looking at what they do, creating documents, researching and gathering. This is the typical work week, how many hours you spend on document related activities alone. And so you look and see, if we have tools now that enhance our ability to create documents, to take those first drafts out of our hands and get something where you're spending more time adding your thoughts, doing the fine work, the editing, or if you're not having to, make sure that you have subject verb agreement or that you've defined all your terms and the things that, AI is actually really good at doing, and also automating clause libraries, things like that. So those are things that people spend a lot of time doing. And over the years, there have been different studies that have shown that people who work with information in the knowledge area, which includes lawyers, spend a tremendous amount of time just searching for information. And so in 2001, IDC published a white paper called The High Cost of Not Finding Information, saying that knowledge workers spent 2.5 hours a day. Flash forward to 2012, pretty much still the same thing. 2018, we're still seeing that that's true, that they lose 50% of their time every week searching for, governing and preparing documents, and duplicating work. So these are the things where I think that knowledge management, or rather artificial intelligence applied to documents, document repositories, and email and other things, is going to see significant increase in being able to summarize, synthesize, generate information so that you can turn that into knowledge and usable knowledge. CAMs failed in law firms because we see a siloed approach. If you're in a firm that has multiple practice areas, you probably know that each practice area often kind of operates in their own sphere, even with their own technology and software. So if you've got a firm that does estate planning and real property, the real property practice group may use a tool like SoftPro, and the estate planning group may use Wealth Counsel. And that information is held in different silos and not shareable across the firm. As we move forward with the challenge of how we're going to deal with generative AI and the billable hour, one of the things that I would suggest is that firms start looking at the total client. So when a client comes in, you assess not just the one need that they've asked you to do, but look at total need. And so, for instance, if you do family law and someone comes in for divorce, if you don't already have someone in the firm that can then help them update their will, then develop a referral system with another attorney or firm that can help them do that, so that they walk out with all of their needs met and not just specializing in one particular area. At least recognize their needs. I liken this to the difference between going to a general practitioner for your health versus a specialist. When I go to the ophthalmologist, they see me as an eye and they look at nothing else. I spend 5 minutes with them. They look at my eye, they say it looks good, and we move on. But they are not really looking at me as a whole person. And so thinking about that, the other thing that we see in firms is hoarding information because of origination fees, because of different things like that. I think that firms and attorneys within firms often tend to hoard information and not necessarily share it. And that may not be even intentional. And then the expense. Some of these practice or the knowledge management systems are expensive. and don't really meet the needs of the firms necessarily. So I think those have been some of the barriers to why this doesn't work. And then the other thing is some information is difficult to capture. Email is siloed. It takes a lot of steps to add it to your document management system or your law practice management system. The search is not very good. Um, with documents, keyword searching isn't all it's cracked up to be. People don't always file documents where they're easily found by other people. We have faulty memory. I don't know how many times I can tell you that I said to myself, I think I've done a program like this before. And then I go through and try to find the PowerPoint or the documents associated with that. And I can't really find them, even though I know I did them. And you probably have dealt with a situation where you've had an attorney say, oh yeah, go look. I did, I filed a brief on that. I did some research on this, and their memory's not always spot on. Then people who knows what, it's often mysterious. And then processes in firms. How do I do this? What tools do I have? So these are all things that artificial intelligence built into knowledge management tools can help with. So thinking about the tools that you have, what is it good at doing? So things like Copilot and Jasper, these are business tools. And so I think you're going to find terms of service that are a little bit more conducive to firms. And then, of course, there's all these products coming out in legal. So looking at the different tools, what's it good at? Is it good at summarizing? Is it good at mining through unstructured data? Is it good at taking that unstructured data and tagging it, creating automations, getting to the heart of the matter without having to wade through a bunch of documents? That's the other part with, your typical search. You put in a couple of keywords, you get even 14 documents that you're going to have to read through, whereas the Gen AI can summarize. And then recognizing that moving forward, the multimodal LLMs, the MLLMs, these are large language models trained on multiple modalities, not just text, but including video. So we're going to be able to take a couple of deposition videos and look at them for tone, for body language, for facial expressions. So now that AI has opened its eyes, it's being trained on more than just text. And this is going to be, I think, a huge leap forward in terms of knowledge management. One thing I'll note regarding product announcements, I see products being announced all the time. They're not ready for prime time, and they're usually in beta. And speaking of beta, just be aware that, yes, this is an example of my beta. Matt already saw this, but it's one of my favorite examples. PowerPoint itself has a artificial intelligence built in. So if I type a word on a slide, it has a designer that suggests pictures to put on that. And I typed in the word beta, and it pulled up an animated koala video, which is very cute. It really has nothing to do with beta. So again, going back to what Jack said, you still need to check its work. We did talk about, then this is where Ben started talking about Copilot. Copilot is the product that is an add-on for Microsoft 365 subscribers. It's now available for business standard and premium. It was launched originally at enterprise models. And what we're seeing is that you've got a generative AI tool built into your Microsoft 365 looking at your documents specifically and not leaking them outside. And so it can help do all sorts of different things. And, I think it's going to go a long way to a beginning of knowledge management within the firm. You do have to be using all the Microsoft 365 products. So if you have your Microsoft 365 installation through AppRiver or GoDaddy, your experience is not going to be good with this stuff. You're going to have the product through Microsoft, and the Copilot add-on is another $30 per user per month. So it's if you're using Microsoft 365 Business Standard, That's twice as much as the license itself. So you can get it by the month. You can have a couple of people try it out and see if it's really useful, if you don't want to have the whole firm go and add a tremendous amount of expense. So when you open it up, it gives you a lot of suggestions about what you can do with it, how you can leverage it. Again, you kind of have to be all in. So it's great for Teams meetings, but if you're a Zoom user and you're not using Microsoft Teams, then you're not going to get this kind of rich information out of the meeting itself. And the meetings for the during the meeting, it doesn't even have to be recorded. But after the meeting, obviously, if you want to get intelligence out of it, it has to be recorded. So, you know, it's not without its caveats. Then for documents, I've seen some amazing demonstrations of, you know, suggest counter or arguments to main points in the document, rewrite this section, assuming that the person has no history of this topic. So if you're trying to write content for an audience that you're trying to help educate, this is a good way to use it. So, you know, it can go out and do things. Another product that is not Microsoft is this product called Joseph that I think is really interesting. It is out of beta now. I used it while it was in beta, but what it does is you can upload policies and regulations. This is probably for bigger firms, and then you can go and query it. So I always laugh because every place I've started working gives us this giant procedure manual and policy manual, and you put it in your desk drawer and never look at it again. And then think, well, maybe the information I need is in there when I need to ask a question, and I'm going to go through this. What Joseph does is it just basically leverages that information to answer the question. So if I go and say, how, would my husband get family leave? Yes. We don't differentiate between, and this is a real answer from our real family leave policy at the NCVA. So having that kind of thing, and this may be eventually turned into a client tool. So I think there's some interesting opportunities. Other tools that I saw that were at the expo that were part of the Startup Alley, this AI powered email drafting for lawyers basically integrates with your email and your document management system, and it basically helps pull information out of your documents and put it into email to help you respond to an email to your clients, which I thought was a fascinating use. Law Droid, you can draft letters and emails, summarize documents, do legal research. Um, Obviously, there's a whole ton of products on the market for helping you draft contracts to make sure that your contract language is up to date, that it's properly formatted. This one integrates, it's called Henchman. It integrates with Outlook and Word, and then it works with your document management system, whether that's Net Documents or SharePoint or Google Drive. And Loople, this one is supposed to help with task management, looking at, again, your document repositories, creating template libraries, work streams, new matter creation, so automation and task management. Maxime, privately deployed LLM, and this is their tagline on their website says, ask questions as if you're asking a colleague. By the way, nothing is free. They usually have free betas that you can test, and then it becomes paid. Someone just asked me a question: does any of this stuff work with WordPerfect? Not that I saw. So, in conclusion of that particular program, I used this, what I thought was kind of a funny meme. Knowledge is knowing that tomatoes fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put that fruit in a salad. Philosophy is wondering whether that makes ketchup a smoothie, and common sense, which I don't think artificial intelligence is going to replace anytime soon, is knowing that ketchup is not a smoothie. So the other program I did at TECHSHOW, just to give you a sense of, we did talk about IA a lot, but we also talked about lots of other things. This presentation speaks to the issues that lawyers are being asked, do you take Venmo? Do you take Zelle? And so there's been some hesitation and trepidation in even taking credit cards. Well, now we're talking about, do I take Zelle? So my um, co-panelist, Julie Bass, had done a ton of research on this. And we know that taking credit cards, you basically get paid faster. And it makes it easier for the clients to pay. So it's a good customer service. But then we've got all these payment apps, PayPal and Venmo and Zelle and Cash App. There's some things to think about if you're going to consider using these. First, of course, 1.6, thinking about the confidentiality and privacy. There are anonymity issues. If you've ever used Venmo by default wants to make everything very public. Obviously, you would need to go and turn that off almost immediately. Where's the data stored? Who's it shared with? How long do they keep it? And so this is an example from the terms of service in Venmo. Who can see additional information? And this is in the business profile. This isn't just the personal use of Venmo. This is the business Venmo. These transactions will display the additional knowledge in your friend's feed. They will appear in the same way as a peer-to-peer payment in the public feed. Well, that's not very assuring for attorneys who are thinking about taking Venmo payments, despite how much your clients may ask. They also use a third party to verify your banking account information. Say they will periodically check the balance to see if there's enough money covered. Do you want another party accessing your bank account? And you can turn off Venmo's use of Plaid by removing the bank account. Well, that's not very helpful either. And then issues with commingling, chargebacks. We kind of know how this works with the legal specific payment processors, but with these peer-to-peer type of payment systems, one has to question if there are fees, which fund are the fees taken out of? Can I direct money directly into a trust account, or is it going to hit my operating account and have to be moved over? In which case, if you're putting monies that should have been held in trust into an operating account to move over, that's a big no-no. So thinking about that, thinking about the transaction fees, how much it's going to cost you, making sure they don't come from client funds. There are transaction fees with these apps. Cash App deducts a 2.75% processing fee for each payment. So that's just about as much as using a credit card. And with Venmo, it's 2.29% plus or minus another 10 cents for contactless payments. So the tap to pay for iPhone and Android on Venmo, and there's a seller transaction fee of almost 2%. So again, these peer-to-peer apps for business are not free. I mean, so you might as well think about using credit cards. And then again, issues with chargebacks, commingling, other issues. The peer-to-peer only allow you to have one business account linked to a personal account. Well, obviously that's a problem. Only one phone number, only one bank account. The only way to add money to Venmo is to sign up for a Venmo debit card or link your bank account to it. Well, why would that be a problem? Well, they suffer some pretty bad glitches. Cash App had some software issues that led to duplication of payments and negative balances in the app. And Cash App and Square also have had data breach issues. Zelle is one that seems like it's supported by the banks, but the reality is that even though you get Zelle through your bank, it has literally nothing to do with your bank account. It's a third-party tool being offered through your bank. It has the same problems as these other payment or peer-to-peer payment processors. The Consumer Fraud Protection Bureau is looking at how to regulate these right now. So while that's happening, I'd probably tend to avoid them. Um, Credit card processors already have a good framework for regulation. There are many on the market for law firms that understand your needs to eliminate commingling of funds, to be able to have two separate accounts, to be able to pull any transaction fees out of your operating instead of trust, so you can maintain the correct balances. If someone disputes a fee that or a charge, then it's not going to be just automatically removed from your trust account, all these kinds of other things. And when you're looking at credit card processors, recognizing that there are fees, transaction fees, potentially monthly rates, recurring costs. The cost associated with ACH and e-checks is much lower of a percentage. Do find out how they deal with refunds and disputes and chargebacks and refunds. What we're seeing and what we saw at ABA Tech Show this year is that in addition to LawPay, which is kind of a well-known brand, they're now part of MyCase. So LawPay is incorporated into the MyCase practice management application. Clio has Clio payments. ProfitSoft has LexCharge, and they are integrated into a lot of their family of products for law practice management. These are products that are more familiar with the rules, what you need to do, what you can do. They're also innovating, they're adding tap to pay and other things. So I think if you're using or considering P2P because your clients are asking you, the best that we can say is consider creating a bank account just for those P2P transactions. And also don't use it for anything that should be held in trust. Do it for only earned fees. But generally, right now, I think the market is too new and too rife with problems for lawyers to comfortably take it. The last thing I want to do is share some tips with you from the 60 and 60. This is the finale to ABA Tech Show, where about 4 or 5 presenters get on stage and they rapid fire give you actionable tips and information that you can use and take home after the show. Not that you haven't learned lots of things, but if you just want kind of quick wins, this is what this program is all about. So I have the entire slide deck I will share with you, but I just want to pull out a few that I thought that were interesting. In terms of document automation, this is something that we've had in the marketplace for lawyers to use for a really long time, but it has been, I think that there's a slow adoption because it's expensive and super time consuming. The nice thing is that more and more we're seeing really adequate and even generative AI superpowered document automation being built in with some of the practice management applications so that it becomes just part of your workflow to turn a document into a template. In some cases, that lets you turn it into a client interview. So you send it to the client fills out a form, which can feel like a chat bot. That information is put back into your system and can be repurposed and put into documents that you're generating. And it's just the workflows are becoming much easier, much more sophisticated. And I think that that is another thing that's going to help us save time and not recreate the wheel every time you open up a document. Another thing, if you haven't, if you use Microsoft Outlook for your meetings, if someone sends you a meeting request and you go, oh, it's 5 minutes till the meeting and she sent me a document. Now I'm going to have to go search through. Check the meeting itself for a little button that says Meeting Insights. If you click on it, what it shows you is any files that were sent to you by this person. In the discussion about the meeting. And so oftentimes you can find exactly the right document without having to go search through your email, look in your folders, just click on Meeting Insights before the meeting and find that document, pull it up so you can discuss it. Another tip that I really like is conditional formatting in Outlook. As we move into e-filing in North Carolina, I think this is going to become a really helpful tip. Um, if you get an email from a specific person or with any particular conditional information, whether it's on read, whether it's from a particular person, if it has a particular word in the subject, you can go in and change the formatting of that information in your inbox. And I'm actually going to show you what this looks like because I use it for emails from my boss. So if I get an email from my boss, it is a different color and it stands out, and I'm able to easily see what that looks like, and attention is drawn to it. So I'm just going to give you a sneak peek at my inbox. So see how this is in red or in purple and it's italicized? That is basically, this is my boss, and every time I get an email from him, it shows up a little bit highlighted, a little bit different than the rest of my email. And I find that helpful for drawing my attention to it. I'll send y'all the article because it just came out about Pipefile. I think Pipefile is really interesting, and especially for attorneys who are frequently requesting information from clients, and there's a kind of a set cadence. So you take on a new client and say you're doing helping them purchase a property. So there's certain documents that you need them to send you, or you're doing an estate plan, or you're doing a small business formation or something like that. There's information you need. Pipefile allows you to create templates so that you say, these are the 5 documents I need. You just click on that, send them that the link. It not only tells them what they need and what format you accept. For each kind, you then say, yes, that is the document I was looking for, or no, and they get kind of a running tally of, yep, that one was accepted. No, that's not what I was looking for. And so without having a bunch of emails back and forth, this creates a very streamlined document collection process that is also secured. So I really like Pipefile. I've been looking at it. It is, for some use cases, far more elegant than using Dropbox or Google Drive for business or any of the other tools that are on the market, just because it builds in that workflow. Vetted AI is another tool that I think is really interesting if you've ever gone shopping online and you don't want to have to wade through all the reviews. Basically, Vetted AI will go and read reviews from every conceivable place that might have reviewed it and gives you a generative artificial intelligence summary to tell you what comes out as being the best reviewed products on the marketplace for anything. Technology, in this particular case, sheet pans. So that's another tool you can use. So if you've been nervous about using artificial intelligence, this is kind of a low-key way to test it out. Another tip, which is a good one, is that sometimes it's just better to talk to people. Technology is not always the answer. You can talk to people, you can pick up the phone. Sometimes leaving technology out of the picture and just having human to human contact is effective, more effective and quicker. This is a tool that I use all the time. It's in Word Online. It's not in Word in your installed version for Microsoft 365. But if you have to turn an outline or an article into a PowerPoint, then you open up the document or the outline in Word Online and you go into File, Export. You export it to PowerPoint and it converts all of that into a PowerPoint, which you can then go and clean up. But just to get a head start on a blank page, this is a great tool. This one is something that I've seen more people leveraging, a digital business card. It's inevitable that someone says, "Oh, do you have your cards with you?" And you don't have any more. You didn't refill your wallet before you left. And so now you can carry a digital business card. There's tools like Link where you can either use near field communication or a QR code to let people access your contact information, get it into their system. So, and there's lots of tools like that on the market. This is a particularly fun tip. Um, did you know that in Word and Outlook, spell check doesn't check uppercase words? I did not know this. So if your pleading titles are in all caps, they aren't being spell checked. So you can fix this oversight by Microsoft. Go into the File menu and click on Options, and under Proofing, uncheck the box that says Ignore words in uppercase, and then it will spell check your uppercase words. I showed you the tool that helps you identify the best reviews, but on the flip side, there are tons of fake reviews and scams on the market, and especially in tools like Amazon and Best Buy, you go in and a lot of those reviews have been faked. And so there is a site that helps you identify, and again, this is artificial intelligence, fake reviews. So you can tell, again, if you go in and there's just a ton of positive reviews and you think this seems weird, you can check it out on FakeSpot. The other thing it does is bad seller detector. So if you're on Facebook, um, Facebook is constantly throwing up ads from websites and they're trying to separate you from your money through social engineering. They're not real. So this is something that helps you combat all that. If you don't have a portable secondary monitor and you travel for work at all, this is absolutely something that I find invaluable. In fact, I did a presentation last week while I was at TECHSHOW for the real property section, and I was in my hotel room, and because I do a lot of demos and I like to have two different screens happening, I have a portable monitor. I think it cost me less than $50. It's a USB, so it does not even need a power supply, which, of course, if you're working remotely in remote locations, sometimes having an additional power supply is a deal killer. This just plugs into a USB port in your laptop, and the USB goes on the other side, and it just works. So having a on-the-go monitor, and I think the monitor that I have, and I can find the brand if y'all are interested, is super inexpensive and very, very lightweight. And just pack it in my go bag. You've probably heard me and a lot of other people suggest that you have standard operating procedures. How do I do something? And this tool I've been playing around with, it's called ScribeHow. And what ScribeHow lets you do is literally walk through something either in the browser for free, or you can download it. And I think it costs, it's kind of spendy for an individual user, 23 per month. But if you have a team of people, say all of the people in your firm, your bookkeepers, the accountant, the office manager, the IT person, that's $12 per user per month for 5 users, and have them start documenting how they do things. And what it looks like is you basically get, and this is just a little test one I ran, and you see it's only visible to me. I can share it. It says navigate to this place, click on login. Here's a screenshot with the button highlighted. Type this in, click on this, click on this, and it does. I just did it, and it created this whole little process for me. The other thing is, as you go through, you can click on this show me how, and it'll actually pull up the website, and you can keep the instructions on one side while you're doing it on the other side of the screen. So this is just makes creating your standard operating procedures for anything you do on your computer very, very easy. We talked about Copilot. Copilot will let you rewrite particular paragraphs. based on tone. So you can say, write this in a friendlier way, reduce the lingo, make this readable at a third grade level, whatever you want to do. And if you don't have Microsoft Copilot, the $30 per user per month version, I'm going to give you a hint of my own. So this is Microsoft Edge browser. I have a Microsoft 365 business account, and I can open up a document in Word online. So this is Word in the browser. And then in Edge browser, I have Copilot. I'm logged in with my 365 account, so I get Copilot in a protected version, so it's not sending my information or the chats or anything else. It very clearly says repeatedly your personal and company data are protected in this chat. And then, so I can ask questions about this particular document. So I said, in this document, what are the essential steps to securing a smartphone? So this is a 15-page document. I wrote it, so I know the answer. But if I wanted to create a summary of that, it gave me a quick summary. And I can continue to ask and query about the information in this document. So this is something that, with the tool that you already pay for and a couple of additional things to get set up, you've got some elements of Copilot already. So next year's tech show is in April, so a much more reasonable time to go to Chicago. The other thing to be aware of is that it's moving to Hyatt Regency McCormick Place. So it has been at the Hyatt in downtown Chicago and Wacker. The show has gotten so big that they needed to go and get bigger space. So mark your calendars for April, hopefully a much warmer month in Chicago. Tech Show is absolutely worth going to at least once. But you don't have to wait necessarily. So if you want to, and this is another tip, you can now embed live and active polls into PowerPoint using Microsoft Forms. And so I did. So if any of you want to take a picture of that QR code, you can answer the question, and in real time, we will see your answers. So I will do it while I wait for you. And if you turn on the music, I even gave you background music. So you take a picture. No one is playing along with me. Oh, thank you.
Okay, I took a picture, Catherine. Now what?
Okay, so you don't actually, when you put this QR code up in your phone's camera, it will show you a link to a web page. You click on that, and that's how these QR thingies work. Is you don't actually take a picture of it, you just pull it up and put it in front of your camera and take a picture. Now, Matt is on the call and he's probably cringing because you don't want to engage with the QR code if you're not sure of the origins. I promise you this one is completely safe. I created it today. So y'all aren't playing along with me.
Nope, not ready for prime time, at least for
It's
this prime time.
okay. Well, it worked for me. It worked for someone else. But all that said, thank
Wait
you.
a minute, wait a minute. You got to click through to it.
Yes, I did a little start page to it.
All right.
Anyhow, so all that said, May 9th, we're going to be doing a day-long tips for practice success. tips today you can use tomorrow. So practical, tactical information that you can use in your practice as soon as you walk out the door. We're going to have guest speakers. We're going to have topics ranging from marketing, finance, um, practical tech tips, Microsoft 365, and everything in between. We're going to have a few surprises I'm getting put together. So do mark your calendars for May 9th and we'll get you more information.
Is this a billable program with the bar?
Billable.
I mean, expense.
Will it
Say
cost you money?
yes.
Yes, because I'm going to feed you. So it will be in person.
Okay.
Um, and I'm hoping to have lots of reasons to bring you in person because I understand that everybody would prefer to participate in webinars at this point, but the reality is sometimes we need to get together, but I feel like you need a reason to come, and that is what I'm working on right now.
Thank you.
So I'm going to stop the recording and let y'all ask any questions, and I will have our next month's webinar put together and out in the events portal soon.